Good evening to all of you. Conference Chairman, Mr. Saravanan, Dr. Chris, Dr. Abdullah Ahmed, Dr. Desmond, and Sister Saleh Mandikum, all the leaders here and everyone. I'm happy to introduce a very, very important person, as a professional, and a global human being, Dr. Chris Sotiropoulos, who is an entrepreneur involved in 3 major businesses at global level: APAC Health, Global Opportunities Commercialization, and Legal and International Commercial Services. These are the 3 companies Dr. Chris runs. The 3 businesses harness globally competitive products and services and strong alliances in the United States, Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. These alliances enable products and services to be introduced for consideration, rapidly assessed by the global partners for market appetite, commercialized and introduced quickly through trusted commercial partners. Dr. Chris and his team, they also provide nation-building capacities, youth and women empowerment programs to several countries. And very importantly, Dr. Chris comes from a background that values culture, that values the human equality and shared destiny and shared prosperity. Shared prosperity is something we in the RISE value very much. That all people on earth can be enabled to lead a life of dignity and worth. And as a person, particularly at a time when machines are taking over considerable amount of human activities and intervention, the cultural dimensions of human and the machine interface is evolving as an important area, and Dr. Chris is an expert there, an enthusiast there, and someone who cares to put human dimensions into sensitive attention and care. And it is indeed, for me, as a believer, God's gift that we have him, because the RISE mostly harness the energies of the small, medium, and aspirational entrepreneurs. And we are eager to build global partnerships with all people on earth, all people of goodwill, women and men. And we may not be able to find someone better than Dr. Chris and the other panelists who are going to be here, the resource persons who are going to be here. It's going to be a wonderful day, awesome day. We are privileged, proud, and feel as a gift of grace that Dr. Chris is here. We are very happy, Dr. Chris, and the floor is yours now. Welcome.
Thank you, Father Gaspar, Chairman. New friends that I've made through the RISE, Professor Mohan and Mr. Isac Newton. During these COVID times, what do we say? We say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening as we traverse the globe in our various interactions. Let me now refer to a presentation and talk about globalizing entrepreneurship. So I'll reflect on the learnings that we have made more so in the last year and what opportunities there are. So I've divided it into 3 broad areas: connectedness and entrepreneurship, developing markets, and new frameworks. So through connectedness and entrepreneurship, what are we after? Well, delivery, efficiency, profitability, and also matching, which the RISE, I'm very honored and proud to note, has achieved very well and will ramp up substantially in the coming years. In developing markets, and this is an area where GOC has lots of passion, looking at technology or products and services and linking them to needs around the world. I'll also spend a moment talking about COVID, which has dramatically changed everyone's lifestyle. But it's also opened up opportunities. And the growth of social enterprise, which we've observed more so in the last half dozen years, than in the previous 2 decades. And finally, we need some new frameworks. It's wonderful to talk about developing markets and improving efficiencies, but there are some clear matters that need our attention. That is a focus on virtues, values, spirituality, aram, which the Rise espouses very strongly, but also legal frameworks and institutional buy-in. Now, connectedness and entrepreneurship. We have some images here which prompt me for storytelling. Market entry. So we have on the one hand, the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the creators, the farmers. On the other hand, you've got your customers. What we do is that we say, we can speak to people in 12 countries, different parts of the world, and ask them to provide a grassroots assessment, find distributors. Is the product right? Is it packaged correctly? Is it priced correctly? Is it prepared correctly? Does it meet the local need? And I've got that image of food waste, where we are seeing food waste during COVID, even in Australia, whereby there aren't enough people to pick the foods. Can you believe it? So market entry, we think, is really important, and the Rise is very well positioned with its strategic partners to be able to focus on both what the market wants, what the end customer wants, but also then take that back to people developing these products and say, please tweak, slightly change your product. On the top right, technology. How important is that? So we have an image of asylum or refugees from the war-torn areas of Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, that have just arrived into a camp in Greece. So they've traveled through Turkey in Greece. What do? They're not carrying lots of luggage with them. Their connection is their technology. That enables them to do their banking, to connect with family, social media. Below that, one of the banks thought about, and this is many years pre-COVID, can we remotely manage our staff? Well, on this wheelie device, they've added an iPad, and the lady in front of it is able to control that machine and run around the office while she's somewhere else, potentially in the world, and hence have that interaction. Digital currencies. Image I took probably about 5 years ago in San Francisco. So coffee shop, normal coffee shop, it said, well, you can pay in these 4 currencies. Now, I don't even know what they are. LB, I presume, is Bitcoin. And the locals just said, where are you from? And I said, well, I'm from Australia. They said, it's okay, you'll find out in a few years. So market entry is really important. And I've got that image of my son there when he was much younger, having a go. Unfortunately, I challenged him to see if he can pull the boat in. And he was doing such a good job that I said, hang on a minute, do you realize that, it's not just market pull and technology pull. You've got to make sure the boat isn't damaged up against the side of the barge there. Moving on to education. The online environment is fantastic for that. I've got the image of an ancient Greek amphitheater. Why do I have that? Because amphitheaters and cultural events were used back then, not in a Hollywood sense of let's just go and do something for a couple of hours. It was a cultural experience, a learning experience reflecting the values of the community. Tragedies, comedies, etc. So for the entrepreneurs, being connected and connecting with market entry, technology, and education is a very core element. Now, developing markets. I thought the Rise is ideally placed. So if you look toward the right top part of this slide, you see a reference to IT. Now, what can IT and the RISE have in common other than the fact that there are a lot of professionals who are in different parts of the world providing services in IT? Let me tell you a big challenge in IT. Customers moving from one platform to another. Today they like Twitter, tomorrow they like something else. YouTube comes and goes in fashion. Facebook comes and goes in fashion. These companies and financial institutions have major challenges in managing to stick to their customers, that so-called stickiness, because they don't have that emotional rapport. That's what the RISE can do, because at a grassroots, its culture is very much values and family driven. That has been marginalized in the West. Kids spend more time on their phones rather than having it. They prefer to send messages to their mum and dad rather than even press a button and speak to them on the phone. This has led to a disconnect, and there has been a stagnation in economic development because of that. COVID, what has that done to deals? You would have thought, oh my goodness me, we're all shut down. Well, guess what? Not at all. People are keen to do deals a lot faster now. Pre-COVID, I'd have to get on a plane, come to India, Europe, US, etc., meet partners, meet their families. They'd come over here, they'd meet us, they'd be comfortable, we'd sign a deal. Off we go. Now, through a trusted intermediary, you can do the same thing. You can get a deal done because so-and-so knows you and so-and-so can vouch for you. Now, post-COVID, the face-to-face will occur, the family-to-family interaction will occur, but deals are done faster now, and that's a great thing for the RISE as well. Social enterprises, growing because finally the economic model has been identified. But why just focus on the social element when you can also look at the commercial element? Isn't there an opportunity to say, well, we're helping a particular community, but can't that community also provide some value as to what it does to another community overseas? Now, that extreme image on the bottom left refers to a fascinating challenge we had. So one of our colleagues has some very deep networks in the Middle East. We were looking at some technology independently, solar panels connected to batteries that don't need cooling. Great idea, used for households, used for farming, used for wealthy properties. We thought, oh, that's fascinating. And then on the flip side, we had a discussion with some senior political members of this particular country in the Middle East. And they said, you know what, we've got problems with food security. And we thought, oh, why is that? Well, because we've depleted fishing in these particular areas. And what about these other areas? Well, we can't go there because we've got no infrastructure. And we said, oh, well, how about you create a mobile site using solar cells and batteries, and you can create aquaculture, you can create food processing on the site that you want. And they said, you've got to be kidding. What a great idea. If you'd come to us and said, oh, I've got solar panels plus batteries to sell you, we'd kick you out. We'd say you're joking. You know, we're a company in the Middle East that's got a stack of oil. But that's where mixing technology and needs comes in. And that's very important. Another quick story, we had a client in Australia who wants to export and grow their market for high-end honey. And so we spoke to different countries. Some said, you know what, we don't sell a lot of honey. Others said, well, there's already markets flooded. Others said, not interested. But in the Middle East, they said, well, we can put you into a high-end department store, no problem. But you know what? Everyone does that and you're not going to get sales. How about we put you in the mall where people are walking up and down and have these huge, beautiful glass jars with honey in it, and people walk past and they bring their little jar of honey from home and they just fill it. And given the amount of honey they consume for religious and cultural activities, you'll do really well. We could never have picked that unless we had that technology to needs relationship. This is how markets are going to be developed. This is how the RISE will flourish in the coming years. Now, before we end up leaving, new frameworks. We need new legal and institutional evolution. Now, legal frameworks have always changed. They've changed in 2020 due to COVID, from what they were 10 years ago, from what they were 20 years ago, from what they were 100 years ago. We need evolution to provide more equity in the world, to respect communities because of economic imbalance and justice imbalance. That's a project we'd love to work with the RISE to deliver. Now, the next big framework that needs to be managed is virtues, values, spirituality through Aram. We found that is missing in the business community in the West. It's available in spades elsewhere. Why not provide that on now the forefront of what people are looking at? It'll provide for more justice, it'll provide for more economic prosperity, and it'll provide for a better outcome for customers and also those developing products. So, for example, when we speak to our software friends in Silicon Valley, they say to us, we have human-centered designed labs. And I said, well, what does that mean? Well, we get a lot of people in a room and we ask them questions. I said, what, you're kidding? Why don't you go and ask your customers? Why don't you get the expertise that exists in developing countries where they have a very strong culture of family, very strong values, very strong spirituality, and link that into your products? And they said, oh, that's just a wild idea. And we said, well, we can do that for you. So that is a magnificent area for the RISE, and we'd love to help with that as well. Unfortunately, my time is short, but it's been a pleasure to have been invited, and I look forward to hearing the rest of the speakers during the day. Thank you very, very much. We welcome the opportunity to partner with the RISE to evolve global pathways, but also to deliver better outcomes for humanity in our planet. And here's a little image of our city, Melbourne. Please come and visit us. We'll take you to see the kangaroos and hug the koalas and meet some wonderful people. So thank you very much. Bye-bye.